You know, a dream is like a river, ever changing as it flows. And a dreamer's just a vessel that must follow where it goes, trying to learn from what's behind and never knowing what's in store. Makes each day a constant battle, just to stay between the shore. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Maxwell Ivy, known around the world as the Blind Blogger, and this is another episode of What's Your Excuse, where I hope to help you explode the excuses that are holding you back by bringing you interviews with people who have overcome adversity or dealt with difficult life circumstances, people who have struck out on their own and started unique businesses, those experts who have real world tested advice that will help you get closer to your goals, and people who I personally find inspiring, interesting, people I just want to talk to, and hope that you will enjoy those conversations as well. You can find it at theblindblogger.net. You can also say, Alexa, play The Blind Blogger, or Google, ask for the Blind Blogger. You can do the same thing with What's Your Excuse. That's what I meant to say. Tell Alexa to play What's Your Excuse and show you the latest episode of the podcast. I do hope that you will visit my sponsor, Chip Edwards, at createmyvoice.com. He is an expert on voice branding and can help get you set up so that people can find your blog or podcast on Alexa and Google, as well as their related smartphone apps and all the new wearables that are coming along. It's a huge market. Not only is it a mistake not to take advantage of it, and Chip is the expert, but also if you don't claim your brand name on these devices, somebody else can. And then instead of getting your wonderful content, they'll get somebody else's. And some of those people are not going to be nice people. So who knows what may happen to you? Somebody may damage your brand just because you don't claim your invocation name. So reach out to Chip at createmyvoice.com. So today I have another great guest. His name is Eric Patrick Thomas. He is an advocate for people who have difficulty with barriers, which I just messed that part up. In 1997, he had an experience where he became paralyzed from the neck down, and as a result, he's since been an advocate wanting people with disabilities or people with barriers to determine how they choose to live their lives and what solutions they decide are good for them. He's also the founder of InspireShirt.com, the Inspire Shirt brand. He's a rapper, a D-Man ambassador. I'm going to have to find out what the heck that means because I'm not all that cool or up to date on pop culture. And he's also got a company where he employs people with different abilities and gives them on-the-job training so they can develop skills and go out and take care of themselves. You can find him at InspireShirt.com. Eric, welcome to What's Your Excuse?
What's happening?
Man, I just about fell backwards. You got some energy.
Yeah, man.
I'm going to have to bring it today, man.
Right, we're going to bring it. Both of us are going to bring it. It's a long time. We've been waiting for this day.
Yeah. Me and Eric have been talking about him coming on my podcast for a couple of years now, and it just so happened that this year is right now it is an anniversary for him, and his goal was to do a certain number of podcasts. I think it's like 27 because it's the 27th anniversary of the injury that caused him to become paralyzed. And he started reaching out to people, and I just happened to be hanging out in the same group he was in. So here we are 2-3 years later, and it's just proof things happen when they're meant to happen. Mm-hmm. And I think I would personally like to pick up on the conversation we were having before we started, because I think it's a great example of what your mission is as a speaker and an ambassador and somebody who speaks to state legislators on the issue of disability. I was talking to Eric about how just this week I went to my eye doctor, and even though all they treat there is vision loss, that people in the room talked around me. They talked to my mom, they talked to the other technicians. They didn't talk to me directly until one of the technicians finally said, hey, he's right here. You can ask him and he'll be able to answer you. So have you had some of those kinds of experiences from your side of it, Eric?
Oh, many, many, many. And it's been, thanks for telling everybody, it's been 23 years. September 20th, March, 23 years living life
23.
after, 23 living life after injury. And yes, I've had lots of those experiences. And for the people that are watching or listening, if you could see me, I'm wearing a black shirt with the word inspire on. I got a black and gray hat on with inspire. And I also have a straw in front of my face because I use a power wheelchair and I use the straw to drive the chair. That's a sip and puff. And I have paralysis from the neck down. Now, those experiences, oh yes, not just in doctor's offices, but at restaurants and you name it. So yes, I have been at the doctor's, then whoever's with me, maybe it's a family member or a caregiver, then the doctor or the nurse or whoever it is giving the direction of the care or what I need to do or what's going on with me to the person next to me. Basically, they're talking around me when I'm the patient. And I'm like, hey, I'm over here. Like, what am I, invisible? I tell them all the time, how can I be invisible? I'm about as big as a smart car, me and my chair, and you act like I'm invisible. Like, what is happening here? And then sometimes they still don't get it after the person says, he's right there. Well, I'm not, they'll say, well, I don't live with him. He lives independently and he has caregivers. And they go, well, yeah, but we want to let you know, no, you're not understanding. He lives independently. I'm not going to be doing this for him. He's going to be directing it. So that's just one time of many. And then at a restaurant, and it's a great story. Well, there's more stories, but
well, we love stories. We love stories here on What's Your Excuse. So let it go, man.
How many times have you been to a restaurant and I'm with a group of people and the person comes up to take my order and they ask the other or somebody else what I'm going to be having for the day? What will he be having for lunch? Then they're like, they kind of point to me and they're like, then when they finally look at me, they either do the, oh, I guess he can talk, or they go, well, ain't you sweet like I'm a child? Now what would you like? You know what? Hold on. You know, right over here we have the placemat and the crayons if you want to be able to color while you're waiting. Like that's how they treat it. They treat me like I'm like 3. And I'm like, I'm paralyzed. Or they yell. They're like, so what would you like? And I'm like, nah, I'm not able to move, not deaf.
Yeah. I thought that was just a blind thing. That's what that just happened to those of us who couldn't see. I didn't realize it was universal to people with disabilities, except I guess maybe the deaf.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sure once we get around each other, we probably have so many stories to share, and then realize that we're all like not alone on it. It's not just our own story.
Right, right. Well, one of the things I find happens to me often is I will share an experience or a solution, and I'll be approaching it as if it was just something that would benefit people who can't see, and then I'll hear from all these sighted people about how, well, that was bothering the hell out of me too. So, what are some of the ways you overcome people, ignoring you when you're right there in the room?
If I'm getting ignored, then it depends on the day, like we were just talking about. You said it just depends on that day. They might catch you on the right day because, I'm pretty a peaceful person, try to find the positive things, but they might catch you on that wrong day, and then it's like, and you never know what they're saying to you too. It could be just the most, the outrageous stuff that you could actually hear from somebody, and there's a lot of things that I hear from people that I could write a book on it, and people don't even believe on the certain stuff that I've heard. I mean, but if they're ignoring me, then I might speak up a little bit louder or move my chair over there, like, or be like, over here, like me, like, I'm here. Or after a while, if they're just not gonna get it, you kind of just let them go. You're like, oh, okay, all right. But I've been bumped into. Like, how do you run into me? I am very it's with the person that has sight, and I'm like, boom. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. You didn't see me. You could have saw me when you were coming into the retail store. You know what I mean? Like, how can you not? It's like Do I need a horn and neon and strobe lights? You know, it's like,
Well, yeah. Well, I take the wheelchair when I'm at the airport, and I've experienced that they need a horn. So I think it's part of it is that most people that see somebody in a wheelchair or see somebody with a cane, they don't want to see us because they realize that could be them, and they don't want our lives. So I think that probably has a little bit to do with them not seeing us. What do you think?
oh yeah, for sure. They want to this like act like this, that we don't exist. That's why a lot of times I say like I feel invisible. And that just doesn't go like in out in the community. That just goes with everything, with technology, with speeches, with business, with public announcements, with making new buildings. Like I'm like, where do I fit in the picture? You've named every single person in this grant, every classification in this grant. Nothing with people with disabilities. Where am I at?
Oh my gosh. In 2016, I was trying to get grant money to do a documentary about a trip I was going to take to New York City as a solo traveler and blind. And I finally got fed up with it because every single application you'd get to the diversity section, and it would show it would show age, sexuality or gender, color, Asian, Hispanic. Wait a minute, there's nothing on here for blind. And I finally asked a few of them about that. They said, well, just find yourself a partner and have them fill out the form as if they're part of your company. I'm like, okay, so
Oh,
you're telling me to lie on an application to request money? That sounds like something I can go to jail for.
oh man, that's usually I haven't heard that one, but I know exactly what you're talking about. I look at those classifications. Usually minority is based on race, then the gender, and then when I see disability, and I go, oh, wait a minute, that's disabled veteran. So they
Ah,
always like they try to like um put together like disabled and veteran a lot of times in the same category. And then you're like, okay, I'm not that, but where's the person with the disability that owns a business? We just had this experience. We filled out for the Restart Grant through the CARES Act.
yeah.
We didn't get it. We didn't get it. And I asked the question, why didn't we get it? We had it in the day that the grant came out. We qualified everything on that application and some, and we didn't get it. And I'm like, well, how did we not get it? Like, can you tell us so that we can, do better when we write grants? Like, what did we miss? So, yeah, it's that part. And I filled out and I've read lots of grants, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't fit any of these. I fit some half of it, but I'm not the other half. And then I'll have like Jesse write at the on the grant. Well, the owner has a disability, but we didn't see that area in there. So where does that fall in? Like,
Yeah. I have never really been a big advocate for my disability or my community. My thing has been just to do Max's thing and to encourage as many people as possible. But the more I've watched, the more I realize there, in a lot of cases, we really don't exist. And in just one example that's specific to the visually impaired, that's didn't used to bother me, but it's starting to bother me, is the fact that there's still a law in the books that allows employers to pay the visually impaired less than minimum wage and hire them.
mm-hmm.
So, but you're right. I would love you to talk more about how you've actually managed to overcome things. But first, I just wanted to share this with you. I asked you what are some of the things you've done to get past the people ignoring you. What I've started doing is unless my mom is with me, if it's my brother or my nephew or somebody that is just a family member, maybe not anybody but her, I will just tell the people at the first door, I will go, oh, he's just the Uber driver. He's not here to help me. And
Yes.
and that works, man. I'm serious. That works big time. They're like, oh, okay. We can't ask him to do nothing for you? Absolutely not. He's just the Uber driver.
That's
And
funny. And you know what that is? That's thinking swiftly but comical at the same time. And I think that sometimes like I need to be able to like start going, maybe I should pull a little bit more pranks and jokes because that probably could come into my favor if I did. Like if I was like, hey, I don't know that person. Like,
yeah,
hey, go tell the
yeah.
store attendant, this person's been following me since I've been in here. So I mean, I think that could work. They would definitely
Yeah,
recognize you then.
yeah.
They'd be like, you know me.
Yeah, yeah. Thankfully, the clinics I generally go to are so large, nobody's ever going to realize that the same person has been there with me 4 or 5 times before. And so, no, he's just the Uber driver. I'm sorry. Um, at Grand Central Station in New York, though, that actually took a while to work for me. I ended up having to tip the Uber driver more than I planned because it took us 10 minutes to convince somebody that he was just there to be the Uber driver, and it was only when somebody told him he had to move his car that they believed us.
Oh
It's like
man.
it's like they absolutely did not want to have to do any work, and I hate to mention that because for the most part, Amtrak's been really good to me over the years. So
Mhm.
uh, we didn't talk about it, but how exactly were you injured in 1997, and how have you managed to stay so positive and overcome everything that's followed since that night?
It's a great question. Doing hip hop music. So September 20th of 97, my group Miscellaneous was celebrating our music project. I go outside to check the parking lot to make sure that everything is like people aren't in my neighbors, yards and stuff, just keeping everything in order. I'm coming back to the house. I'm only like outside for 5 minutes. Before you know it, someone comes around the DJ van in the parking lot, pulls a gun, pow, 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 pow. I get hit with a bullet right in my third vertebrae. Instantly, I drop to the ground. At that time, I'm not able to yell out, speak, call for help. I'm not able to breathe. I'm struggling. I'm struggling for life, and I'm not able to. Basically, all my senses are turned off to be able to project. But I could hear the chaos on the outside. I could hear like someone's been shot, Eric's been shot, people kind of like scattering, and then a guy in the house that was at the party was taking EMT classes. He came out and stabilized me. But then before you know it, from there, I'm in the hospital. They put 4 screws in my head, 2 in the forehead, and 1 on each, right by above the ear to stabilize the spine. It's called a halo. Then after that, they put tubes in your throat because they're intubating you in a feeding tube. Then you wake up and you're like, you see your mom, your stepdad, your dad and stepmom, and some family and friends and doctors. And then you try to move. You're like, okay, why am I not moving my arms or legs or what's going on? Of course, they tell you about the paralysis or you're paralyzed. Plus, you're trying to survive at the same time. And I think like you have so many emotions going on, but you also think like you're naive about it, and you're like, oh well, it's temporarily too. Like long term, temporarily, you're kind of on a battle of that. You don't know what the unknown is. Then from there, within a couple weeks, I communicated with eye blinks, blink once for yes, twice for no. And then they gave me a tracheotomy because they realized that I was going to be, they said I probably wouldn't breathe on my own ever. So they gave me a trach. And then I learned how to tongue click. That was my form of communication. Then the detective got there 4 days later. I answered the questions with my eye blinks at that time. He came back more than that many, more times in a 29-day period. And then I was able to finally get the feeding tube out and eat food. And then, and then there I am, waiting for the next chapter, which is rehab. So that's how I got injured. Was the party.
Right, and I want to make sure people understand this. This was not some gangster situation. This was not
No,
Eric running the streets, getting into trouble. This was Eric standing out front of his own house doing nothing but making sure everything in his yard was okay before he went to bed.
and I had the party at my house. We
Right.
were so we were. I would say this, and I say this all the time. We were celebrating a music project, but at our home that we live in. So we're having a professional function in an unprofessional situation, I guess you would say, because people are coming that you don't know. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
had so many people there. I did not know everybody there. So that would be my advice to take from that. Always have your stuff in a professional situation.
Yeah, it's interesting. You had to get shot to learn that, while whereas the rest of the country is only having. Well, excuse me, I shouldn't say only. The rest of the country is learning that from Corona.
Oh,
So, that we have to know, we have to limit how many people are there and have to know who the heck they are. Otherwise, we might have somebody at our house that's sick. So, but we're not talking death row records kind of behavior here that led to the shooting.
no,
You
like
know,
our hip hop was, we were always doing pretty positive hip hop or storytelling or
yeah,
something, but no, we didn't have like, we weren't going through like, it wasn't something like gang related or drug related or something, even though the police try to, classify it like that by discrediting your character. Like, I think the newspaper reported I was found with a large sum amount of money, which I think I had $65 in my pocket or something like that. So instantly, when the media reports that, because when I was reading it in the hospital, I knew right away what that's all about. That's just all about having someone read it and they go, oh, another drug dealer going wrong. And that's exactly what happens. They were trying to take away from what really happened, which really happened was someone shot someone and we don't know who did it. We don't know why. And they should be working on it, but they didn't. There's no police report, just the incident report. So
right. And by discrediting or trying to diminish your character, it becomes a case that the general public won't pitch a fuss if they just let it go away, which is what it sounds like has happened.
right, it's kind of like that. They kind of like, you know, the way some, I mean, that's how it was set up in the paper. It was set up in the media that way. But then we had the candle walk, and then that was, towards, like the candle walk just wasn't about me. It was about violence itself, and so on and so on. I wasn't in the candle walk because I was still, like surviving in the hospital, waiting to go to rehab whenever that was going to be coming.
Right. So how long did rehab last once you were through with this first like month or so in the hospital?
September 20th of 97 to October 29th, I was in the hospital. And then October 29th, I was flying out to Craig Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado. One of the things, I was on a ventilator, so I'm in Michigan. All the rehab facilities at that time did not have space available for patients that were using the ventilators. So that was one of the things. The other thing, I didn't want to leave Michigan, but then Craig Hospital specializes in getting people off the ventilator. So that was the decision why we went out there to get off the ventilator. So then once I got to Craig Hospital in Inglewood, Colorado, it was rehab boot camp, man. They didn't stop. They worked you. Right away, the respiratory therapist comes in, and the way that they get you off the ventilator, they it's called weaning. They turn the ventilator off, the life support. So you're off for 30 seconds, and you got this pulsometer, so you can see your oxygen levels. So like, are you breathing? Are you not breathing? It's biofeedback. And then they turn it back on. And they say, okay, we'll be back later on. They do it 3 times a day, 5 days a week. That's how they do it. And you have good days and bad days. You have forward steps and backward steps. But your goal is to get off the ventilator. So you just keep your focus and your vision on that goal, no matter if you have setbacks or push forwards. So that was part of that. And then you have occupational therapy and
Okay.
physical therapy, and then you have education class.
Okay. Occupation, physical therapy, and then you have educational classes. So how long did it take to get off the ventilator?
5.5 months.
Yeah.
I
For
almost did not get off it, but the wheelchair that they ordered in rehab was wrong. So they had to reorder the right chair, which gave me more time to get off the ventilator. It was like 2 weeks before I was going home. I came home March 20th of 98. And I think it was like 2 weeks before I came home, I got off the vent. Because I only got to swim one time in the pool.
Okay, I was asking because we there's been a lot of talk about ventilators here in the U.S. because of Corona. And
Oh yeah.
I know your situation was different than people who are in there for Corona because they're but their cardiovascular, their respiratory systems are compromised. So I just want, since you were going to talk about it anyway, I just wanted people to get an understanding. Getting off a ventilator is not a guaranteed thing. It's not an easy thing. And while we're all grateful that those ventilators have saved so many people's lives, we can't forget that those people still have a long road ahead of them, just like you did in 23 years ago. So, what was just give me a little taste of some of the other rehabilitation that you went through before you were able to come home.
Stability, your mindset, stability. Except I would say at the beginning, I was very driven to say, all right, let's do this. But like I said, you still don't know if it's long term, short term. Um, Mentoring other patients that are there. After a while, the doctors were like, can you go talk to, this is when I was finally able to talk. Because remember, I'm not able to talk yet in rehab
Right.
even. And go talk to like other people that's been shot, and because they're having a hard time. So I'm like, okay, I didn't know it was called mentoring then. I was just going and talking to them like, hey, buddy, I know it's messed up, but you know what I mean? Or whatever it was that
Oh,
however
I love this because one of the things that I've learned over the years is that a lot of people have trouble doing stuff because they get bogged down by what it's called. But people who
Yeah.
just do it without really knowing what it's called or caring, those people seem to succeed. Like, you didn't know you were mentoring, but you were definitely mentoring. I didn't know I was podcasting 8 years ago when I started recording videos. I have a very good friend, Chip Edwards, who I mentioned earlier. He's an amazing public speaker, but he has to tell himself he's going out there to teach people stuff in order to go out there to present, or he can't do it. So I really love that you shared that. You didn't know you was a mentor, but dang, you were definitely, and you were the ideal mentor for these other people because you had been through it and probably even more extreme results than some of these people you were being asked to help out.
Yeah, and I mean, some of it was tough situations, like how, because their struggle was harder to them mentally. They may have been able to move their arms, but their mindset was paralyzed. More it was paralyzed even greater. Even though they can move their arms, they didn't. Their life was over. They didn't want to live. Like there's a lot of things that I heard. And I was like, and me, and I'm like, I'm not able to move my arms or legs, but you don't want to say that, like, hey, I'm not able to move my arms or legs right now, man. Like, chip it up. You don't want to do that. You just want to talk to them and develop a friendship, a relationship, a trustship, I guess. Because whatever they're
Exactly.
sharing with me, they trust me and I trust them. And and uh and I'm gonna give it to them straight. You know, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna say, hey, this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just listening to you. So yeah, I love that. You you mentioned educational. So was the rehab place where you started doing the design work for the art for yourself and other people, or was that something you had always done?
No, I've always been like a love of like art and graphic design or photography. In fact, when I was going to college when I got shot for photography because of the hip hop stuff. I was doing both. I was trying to go to photography, doing hip hop music, and I was working a couple jobs too at the same time, just kind of figuring things out, making sure I got multiple streams in case something happens. So
Right. So if you didn't become a famous rapper, you could
yeah.
make a living videoing famous rappers. Is that where we were going here?
Oh, taking pictures. I was gonna take pictures at concerts. You're right. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And I think at that time it was like I was looking always at Source magazine, Vibe magazine. Those were the two main ones. And I just wanted to travel with the concerts and be able to take photos and and to be able to write about, the experience. That yeah, that was definitely like something that I was like looking into. Like that would be a great job to do, a great thing to do every day. Like I wake up and I'm able to travel and to take pictures and concerts. That would be just great, So yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely something.
All right. So where did the ambassador stuff, wanting to advocate for other people, did that come from the rehab, or was that something that was always inside you?
I think that all those things, I think a good amount of those things are something that's already inside me. I think that it just takes certain situations to bring it out of you more, like enhance it. Like it's almost like here's a dim light, and then this situation happens, and now it's so bright it's about to blow the light bulb. Bow. Like a surge protector, a shock wave or something. Like a power surge, because it's receiving so much energy. When there wasn't any like real advocating in rehab, that didn't start until I came home. Then I went home to my mom and stepdad's house, so I didn't have to go to an institution like a nursing home. And we got hooked up with the Disability Network, and that's when I had a meeting with Mr. Zelli. He was the CEO at that time, and he uses a manual wheelchair. And I remember 20 years old, and I'm all like, this, rough, just trying to figure out things right now. And then he's like, we meet, and he's like, you may not realize this or may not believe me now, but you'll be able to accomplish whatever you want. Just get involved. Get involved, and get involved with sharing your story, being able to uh, build a relationship with legislators, being able to go public speak, understanding the ADA, understanding accessibility, all those different things he was talking about. Of course, at that time, I'm like, it's all like, wow, 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 what is this stuff that you're saying? Because I didn't understand it yet. And then before you know it, we set up a self-determination living arrangement, and I'm able to hire my caretakers. I'm able to hire people to be caretakers and direct my care and do schedules and interviews and everything. So pretty much overnight, I became the CEO of my life. So it was basically I became the business. And so that's how the caregiving started, which gave me independence.
Right. Right. Okay, y'all. I'm speaking with Eric Patrick Thomas. He's paralyzed from the neck down as a result of a gunshot, but he's an advocate for people trying to overcome their own barriers. You can find him at inspireshirt.com. He's an artist, a rapper, a D-man ambassador, and I'm really enjoying hearing how his story has progressed. I love and again, y'all can find him at inspireshirt.com. So, what exactly is this disability living arrangement, and is it something only done in Michigan, and is it
No.
something only done for people who are paralyzed?
I received it through Medicaid and Medicare services. And no, I've actually went to a self-determination international conference. It's just that each area kind of handles their living the self-determination differently. With us, Michigan, we just got some strong supporters. We got some people that understand that, hey, a person can live independently in a house, and they can have people that come and do the care for them. They can direct their care. They can have a fiduciary to handle the dollars, the Medicaid and Medicare dollars. They can also learn responsibility to be responsible about them. And they can also have the best quality of life ever with self-determination. So yeah, it's amazing. And I learned this stuff later on through Michigan Partners for Freedom, which is a grassroots operation to demand self-determination wherever we went. We were demanding it, man. We were going to cities like, hey, we're going to tell you about self-determination. And people were like, what's that? And they're like, look, you're in a nursing home. We're going to show you how you can get independent. Or, we're going to, and then of course the process is you have to meet with your caseworker. You have to talk about that you want to go, do some, want to learn more about self-determination. Then you have this thing called the person center plan. And that's where every year, well, you can have it more than once, but you discuss your goals and dreams, and you have your circle of support, so whoever you want to invite. Me, I have a party. It's a celebration of independence. And
Well,
I talk about my goals and dreams and what are your like health issues or whatever you want to talk about. And I direct the meeting. You have a a person to write everything down to you. And then people are accountable because they'll say, well, I want to take a vacation. Well, I can help you take a vacation. I want to go to the park and have a picnic or something. Or I want to visit people more or visit family more. Or whatever it is that your goals are, people are there to say, I can help with that. I can help you do that. That's called the person-centered plan. That's part of self-determination. And so that was what learned through Michigan Partners for Freedom. And it was awesome. We were everywhere, going to schools, ISDs, going to like different organizations, going and speaking to legislators. Wherever we were, man, we were like, we're demanding self-determination because people should have the best quality of life. And the resources are there, and the services are there. And we have proof that that it works, and this is how it's done. And that was part of self-determination. It was awesome.
Well, I think I've been through a little bit of that through the Texas Workforce Commission, but I don't think our state is near as invested in it as your state is, just because I know how the state of Texas generally does things. You know, we're part of the Wild West attitude where, you know, basically you're supposed to take care of yourself pretty much. But we are looking at getting some new computer equipment, which would be great, and also some training so I can be of more assistance to my clients. So there is help out there, but as you say, you have to advocate for it. You have to pretty much demand it, especially from the types of government agencies that we have to deal with.
Right. Like we have Michigan Rehab Services, which is, you know, they help people get employed or start businesses or go back to school. But you got to develop a plan. You got to get what do you call it? Like whatever you need to start your business, quotes. You know, you have to get quotes on like the equipment and stuff. Usually it's 2 or 3 quotes, different bids on it, or to find out the best one. The other thing is you also could go back to school. So you just got to have a really strong, solid plan for the for the MRS counselor to work with you to kind of get you to where you're trying to get to. That's a service. That's something that's available. We also have the Assistive Technology Grant. That's the loan, the Assistive Technology Loan Fund that's here. I don't remember how much that you can apply for, but you can, you know, that's for like someone that's blind. They could get like a screen reader, or is it called JAWS, I think, or something like that.
That's the main one, JAWS. Yeah, you got it.
Okay, and then, or it could be like environmental control units, you know, where you can turn on lights with like a sip and puff or by voice, or open doors or whatever. The Assistive Technology Loan Fund is there to be able to purchase assistive technology because all this stuff is expensive. we're not able to afford, and it's hard to afford. So like,
let's talk about that a bit. Let's be honest about this. There's lots of stuff out there in the world that is meant to help people like me and you. We have different barriers, but there's still lots of stuff available. But just about anything you want or need is crazy expensive as opposed to what average person pays or has to expect to spend on their life.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I say it all the time that I feel, what do they call it? Is that exploited? Like,
it is. I think to a certain extent it is. And of course they will tell you, well, y'all have such a small market and we have to average our research and development costs over what we can potentially make from something. So we have to do this. I've recently been talking to some people from OrCam. I've talked to them more than once. They make a wearable that, reads stuff and can identify street signs and stuff like that for the blind. It's like $2,000. And this is like their 4th or 5th generation. It's gotten cheaper each time, but I mean, dang, it's, it's just the kind of money. Why don't you mention a few of the items, not necessarily your chair, because I don't want to make anybody faint, but some of the things you have to have and what kind of money we're talking about,
You said the chair, you're talking 40, 50,000 around there. So, it's almost like the exact, like it depends on the level of the need. So with me not being able to move from the neck down, then they're like, okay, so this is available for a quad. So we got the quad price. It's like it's like the top notch. top shelf alcohol. Like, he's a quad, so that's okay. We could put, but you're charging me quad price when I'm not able to afford it. Well, it would be nice if we could, like, if you could afford this. Maybe your insurance will cover it. Nope. Yeah, okay. Well, like, nope. Like, maybe you're a comedian. It's like, come on. Like, so you have to learn how to fundraise. That's why I've learned how to fundraise, because I always say that quote, I always say, never say can't, always say how. So it's always the how. I've been learning this how since the time I've been home. How do I get this done? How do I get the van? How do I get a house? How do I get a wheelchair, a Trixie lift, a bed, a thing that turns on my lights? But I will say this, the smart technology has been a game changer. A game changer, man, with the smart
Yeah,
technology. And can
yeah,
I
because
mention the names?
yeah, you can mention the names. We're not worried about it. We're actually, if they get mad at us, we'll worry about that next month. I mean, podcasting is always an iffy proposition anyway, and I'm still kind of waiting for Garth Brooks to sue me for using his music. So we're all good, but I know what you mean. A lot of this stuff that is being invented in the smart technology for the average person is stuff that does make our lives a little easier. But yeah, go ahead and drop some names.
Oh, without a doubt. When Alexa came out, don't say anything, Alexa. And now that has changed I mean, I can sit there, I can make a phone call by voice, real hands free, not touch a button hands free, like they used to say. It's hands free, but you got to touch a button and then you say the command. No, real voice command. I can sit there, I can listen to podcasts, I can get news, I can get weather. You can turn the TV on, turn the TV off. You can turn lights on, turn them off. You can change colors of the lights. You can turn your heat up and down if you want to. You can open your doors. All the stuff that I have a coffee pot that I can actually turn on and start brewing coffee.
Hey,
All by my voice.
yeah. My buddy Chip sent me. He was telling me the other day that now, by using the Alexa app on your phones, you can have it buy your gas and even pump your gas. I mean, I'm like, it's crazy what they're doing with Alexa and the smartphone apps and the wearables. Just this week, there's an article how Apple is going to start tracking podcast listens on Apple Watches, something they haven't done before this month. And I'm like, man, who knows? Maybe if people can listen to me on their watch, maybe they'll listen. I don't know. I'm doing all right, but yeah, it's funny how it's been kind of the reverse on the smart stuff. On the speech, it was installed on the fourth generation iPod and then Apple computers as a way to help the blind people. And it's been one of those things that's been accepted by the sighted people because it makes their lives easier. But this smart technology is, man, the other way around,
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's all I got to do is lay in bed. If I want to listen to your podcast, all I got to do is say the command, and I can listen to your podcast. And
Yeah.
I don't, so I can read books on Audible books.
Yeah.
Or if there's books that are like on Kindle, they can be read to me. Like, this is just like, oh my gosh. Like, I know that they promote this stuff as like hip and cool, but this has been life changing, man. This has been independence. This has been freedom. Like, I don't even know how to go back. That's the thing. I'm so involved with, like, it's been a part of my life now that if it was taken away, then it would be like back to, can you open this book and turn the page for me? Because I've done the page turners before and they're disastrous. Oh my gosh, have I tried those? Oh man, with the mouse stick, putting the heavy 20-pound magnet in my mouth with the little thing on the end of it and then touch the page and flipping it. Oh man. Oh,
man, it's a shame you don't have videos of all this crap you've had to go through since you got home, because you could be killing it on YouTube, man.
I know.
I kind of have a similar thing. We used to have a crazy dog here in the house that was always creating YouTube moments, but none of them were ever captured on video. So,
Yeah, but
but
at least you could talk about it and allow the person to visualize it in their head. That's the best thing. They're like, oh man, and it's funny that you talk about the moments, but I would love to talk about some of the things that people have said to me that you're like, really? Like, did you really say that to me? If that's what you want, if you want to talk about that, that'd be awesome, Max.
okay, this ain't going to get me kicked off of YouTube or Apple, is it? I
Oh
mean,
no, this is clean
no,
stuff.
because I do not want to have to change the settings on my podcast because if in fact a good friend told me, she said, Max, you need to change the name of your show from what's your excuse to what the hell is your excuse. And I told her I can't do that, it'd be too much trouble.
Right.
So as long as we're not going to get NC-17
Oh yeah.
equivalency on YouTube, go for it.
No,
Just let
never
me
that.
just let me remind people they're listening to Eric Patrick Thomas from InspireShirt.com, and he's just going to share some of the things that he's had to overcome as far as people's thoughts, opinions, and some of those that they had the guts to say out loud. So, hang on,
Uh,
y'all. Who knows where this is going?
no, this is a great story. So with Easy Awareness by Design, I have a shop. It's a brick and mortar shop, and we are inside the Goodwill store in Flint. Okay, this person comes into the shop, and he wants to do like odd jobs, and he just wants a flyer printed. He wants Jesse to make the flyer and maybe print up like 15 flyers. And we're like, we don't really do printing, and this all you gotta do is just go to like Kinko's and just get it printed and stuff. Then he was like, well, can you make the flyer for me, the layout? And we're like, okay, like let's talk about it. So we talk about it. Okay, now we're leaving. So, business is over. We're leaving. We're going out the vestibules. So that means that there's a door, and then you have a space, and then a door to go to the outside. And so we're going out, and of course there he is, and he holds the door. He opens the door for me, right? Okay. So
Okay.
he's holding the door for me. Then he looks at me, and he just is right there. We're trying to get into the van. He said, "Can't move your arms or legs," and I was like, "Nope, I'm paralyzed like that." He's like, "That sucks." And I'm like, "Okay, okay." But then this is what the guy says. He was like, "Well, He was like, "Can I get a discount because I held the door for you?" I'm like, really? The guy wanted a discount, but the way he said it was just like even. If I wish if people could hear how he said it, he was just like, "Yeah, do I get a discount because I held the door for you?" Like, really? That's one time. We were just like, okay, kind of blew him off a little bit. Like another time, I've had someone say, "Oh man, you got the best seat in the house." Oh yeah, got the best seat in the house. And then I've also had some people come up to me and go, can you slide over some? My feet are tired. I need to sit down with you." Like, really? And not to mention the accessible parking wars that you go through. I've had battles in the parking lot with people for accessible parking, or it's called handicap parking, where we literally went to go pull into an accessible spot, and the other person pulls in, and I'm like, okay, they don't even have a van, a ramp, or anything. And I'm like, I really need this spot. All the rest are taken up. And then the one lady one time was like, "I'm handicapped too." And I'm like, all right, so, okay. Well, I don't know because she's not out the vehicle yet. So, of course, the person that's with me, we pull out because she's already boxed us in. So she pulls in. She jumps out the car and runs into the store. Like, I needed that spot because I needed the hash marks so I could get out of the van safely and out it. That's all. I don't care about the upfront parking. I want to be able to get out of the van. And she took up, not to mention, she didn't even park right. She parked on the hash marks. On the hash marks. I was like, maybe she parked all on the hash marks. I'm like, and I'm like, okay. So really she took up 2 parking spaces because she
And
parked on the hash marks.
just to keep you from parking.
I don't get it. I've always told people when they resurface the parking lot, can you just put some accessible parking spaces like 3 rows back? or in the middle because nobody's going to take them. I'll be fine. I'll be able to. All I want to do is pull in a parking space, use the hash marks around the side, so the ramp can come down safely, and I can drive down the ramp safely without having someone run over the ramp. Because I did have that at the post office. The ramp was down, and the car went right over the ramp, and I was like, really?
And
Oh, I didn't see that. They just
yeah.
they're on top of it. So I'm like, okay, you just ran over my ramp. I'm
That's,
so it's
now see,
like,
I know this is a terrible story, but I love this for one important reason. You know, earlier you said you're not about can't, you're about how,
yeah,
and I think that a lot of times we really get, you know, when it comes to finding solutions, which is how I say it, to find solutions instead of making excuses. A lot of times it just comes down to seeing things in a different way. And what you basically have done is instead of saying, okay, my handicap, the disabled person with barriers, stickers, spots, whatever, if you put them at the front of the store, are going to want to park there, and I'm going to have trouble. But if you just put them in the middle of the parking lot, or even a few rows back from the front, people won't take my spot. We won't have to go through this crap every day. To me, that's genius. That's the kind of, you know, of problem solving that more people need to do. That's why I stopped you, not because I didn't like your story, but because I thought it was a great example of maybe how, I don't know. Let me just ask this question because it just occurred to my brain. Do you think people with disabilities or who are challenged by barriers, do you think that do you think our brains are wired differently, or that they have adjusted to become differently because of the fact that we really oftentimes we don't have a choice as to best solution, we just have a choice as to finding solution.
and that right, and that's a great question. And you know what it is? It's that survival. It's the survival mentality. And then it's the being the voice, because we're constantly fighting for representation, for accessibility, for being work, for being able to be employed, to be able to own a business, to be able to have care, to be able to have medical coverage. We're to be able to be recognized in the community, to be able to have technology that fits the needs of us. We're always in a fight. So we're in the survive mode. And I know that other people don't realize it yet until they talk to other like-minded people, or people that also are going through the same challenge. And then they go, oh, okay. And then that's where the mentoring comes in. Some people are not ready to go out there and put on that survive fighting method. They want to, or some are not able to. They could be isolated. You're right. It definitely is something inside us that triggers, because we're always constantly doing it. But the other half is too, I feel like I've been an entrepreneur since life. I've always been a problem solver. You know what I mean? From the very beginning, I've always like tried to solve problems. And I feel like that's a born entrepreneur, because that's what entrepreneurs solve problems. That's what they do. They solve problems that actually like change the life of the world. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the problems. It's like, oh, the bridge is out. Well, what do we do? Well, let's figure it out. How are we going to get from point A to point B so that everybody is saved, so that we're able to go where the food is, or able to go, because right now there's no food over here. So we got to figure out how to go over there with the bridges out. So what are we going to do? We're going to figure it out. Like, it's a humanitarian thing that a lot of entrepreneurs do. We solve life crises and things like that, challenges. We make things more efficient. But I definitely think that what you said, that it is, because Max, when I go to places, because of like knowing you, or knowing my friend, my stepbrother, is he's deaf, or a lot of other people, I go to the restaurant. You know what I ask them? Excuse me, if the person was blind, how would they read the menu? Do you have a menu in Braille? Will you be able to tell the person? Because I know, because by talking to my friends, I know like some of their needs, and I always want to make sure that they're opening the doors for everyone at facilities, at restaurants and museums, or wherever I go. And before you know it, I'm talking to the manager or the supervisor about closed caption, and how in aisleways and hallways, and the lighting, and the wheelchair bathroom, and it's so on and so on. It's kind of like It's just there. It's a part of me now. Because I would say this: one, because there was people that did it for me. The reason why I have such independence now. So that's paying homage to all those people that sacrificed themselves, did what they did before me. So you
Yeah,
carry that legacy or what they did. You carry their work and you keep building and keep blazing the trail because there's going to be people that have disabilities after you. So we're going to make their life, the quality of life, we're going to make access or whatever it is better for them and hope that they also continue to pay it forward. I guess it's the pay it forward kind of thing. And that's what we do.
yeah, yeah. But I tend to agree with what you said in the beginning there. Somebody recently mentioned that, but when I help other aspiring podcasters or when I help podcasters find guests, that I'm paying it forward. And I tell them, no, I'm not paying it. I'm not paying anything forward. I'm paying everything back. I'm
Yeah.
repaying all those people who went out of their way to help me solve some problems that I didn't have answers for, so that I could accomplish the next goal on my journey. So I like to
Yeah.
think more of it as, and the other reason I like to say paying it back is because I'm really big on gratitude and the power of gratitude, both to other people and also to God for His help over the years. So and you talked about how entrepreneurs are problem solvers. I believe one of the key reasons why I've been as successful as I have been in the last 13 years since my family's carnival went out of business is I grew up in a family of people who worked in a business that was a very hard way to make a life and make a living. And so you got really good at just finding a way to get to next week. Get open at all costs and worry about what you had to do to get there next week. It was, and so I do agree with you that being an entrepreneur or growing up in a family of entrepreneurs is definitely a laboratory, so to speak, for learning how to find creative solutions. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So now that now that I've piggybacked off of a couple of your stories, do you have another story or two you want to share?
Going back to what you just were talking about, growing up and doing entrepreneur things, I remember just like I wanted to get that bicycle. Well, it wasn't like I'm gonna go get the bicycle for you. How are you gonna get it? Mowing yards, shoveling snow, whatever it was. I had a paper route for a long time. Like I was out there, learning the value of money and how to earn it. That it takes time, and you have to earn it if you want to get the things that you want to get. But that's the how. The other thing is that I also rented my Nintendo games. I used to rent my Nintendo games to the neighborhood kids. And that money is how I grew my collection. So the money that from them renting my Nintendo games, I was able to buy more Nintendo games and keep building this Nintendo empire. And then they didn't have to go buy them. All they had to do was rent them and then beat the game usually, anyways. So they didn't have to spend all the money. They could just spend a little bit of money with me, and then that would grow my collection. So that was my very first touch of entrepreneurship, having renting my Nintendo games in the '80s. Going back to stories, one time I was in 2015. I was heading out to Shark Tank. I was gonna go out there and be a guest on Shark Tank and get the Shark Tank experience. Well, when we got to LAX to get transportation to my hotel downtown LA, there was all these cabs, all these headlights, people fighting for these cabs. I mean, there was cab drivers fighting for, people to get in the cab. And we were like, where's the wheelchair accessible transportation? They're like, the guy that was like the controller, the taxi controller was like, there's no wheelchair transportation here right now. And then you were like, what? Like, where's the ramp? We have a bus, but guess what? The bus has got a ramp, but it doesn't go downtown. We're trying to get from LAX to downtown. Well, the person at the hotel, they called around and got a van, got an accessible transportation taxi, I guess. And they came an hour later. And then I remember just like sitting there at LAX, and then I hear the guy, wheelchair? I'm looking for a wheelchair. And I was like, and I had my GoPro on. I'm like, just turn my GoPro on. Because here we go. Then I'm like, all right. I'm like, I think you're looking for me because I use a wheelchair. And he was like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay. Now I'm looking right at the van. I'm on the side of it. He opens up the side door, no ramp. So I'm like, maybe I'm just gonna like get bounce up there or something. I don't know. Then I'm like, where's the ramp? And he's like, hold on. So he opens up the hatch of the van and he pulls out a portable metal ramp and unfolds it and then puts it on the side of the van. And I'm like, where am I going to go inside the van? There's a driver's side, there's a passenger side, and there's a bench seat. Where's the tie downs? He's like, yeah, yeah, just get in. And I'm like, well, but how am I going to fit in there? Does the passenger side remove? He's like, yeah, yeah. And I'm like, so I'm slowly creeping up this ramp, but with my breath because I'm using the straw, I'm puffing forward, and then he wants to push on the chair. I'm like, I no, don't do that because I got it. Like I can drive, I can drive. Then I'm in it. It's pitch dark. Now I'm like, how am I gonna fit in here? I've said it before. I think I turned to like air or liquid or something and just like transformed and went inside this vehicle. I was pinned between the passenger side, the driver's side, and the bench seat. So I was like I was the fifth dot on the dice, you know. And here I am. I'm the fifth dot, I'm in the middle, and I'm like, I don't even know how I'm gonna get out. And then we ask him, after 25 minutes of loading 8 bags, and two of us, and me and him, and his cooler, which he had his lunch in, which is in the passenger seat. Then they were like, where was the wheelchair transportation? He was like, there's no money in it. He was like, we're not going to have that. We were like, wait a minute, there's no money. And he was like, you see how it took 25 minutes? We could have gotten, 2 or 3 people already to their destination by that time. So, and that's all live. That's all on my YouTube channel. The video footage is there. You can watch it and listen to it of a person really giving you the honest feedback. Why? Because there wasn't money into it. But I was like, no, if there was an accessible vehicle, I could have got in like in 2 minutes or something. We could have loaded the bags. We would have been out in 5 minutes or something, after getting tied, the proper tie downs. The other thing, I'm in this vehicle, there's no tie downs. So that's completely illegal and unsafe for me, but I had to do what I had to do. I had to get to where I had to go. And right. So that was my accessible taxi LAX transportation story.
Yeah. What's the link to your YouTube channel?
Oh, YouTube. Oh, it might be EPT 77. But you know what?
We'll find it and give it to y'all in the show notes, quote unquote. So what was your Shark Tank experience like? Because I've watched a few episodes of that show, and I know a couple people who have tried to get on that show, and so I'm just wondering what your experience was like and what the final outcome from being on it was.
Well, it was amazing. Damon John, who is on Shark Tank and the owner of FUBU, founder of FUBU, he's the one that actually had me come out there. Then flew me out there. I'm good friends with him. I met him back in November 2012. So we've kept in touch ever since. And it was 2015, so I had to get on the plane. Figured out how to get on a plane. They're not wheelchair accessible planes. So basically you get carried like a duffel bag. I felt like I'd say before, gym laundry in a duffel bag into an aisle chair, and that's all on YouTube. And then you get transferred to an aisle airplane seat, just like everybody else. And then your chair goes down in the belly of the plane and stuff.
Right.
So we fly to LAX, and of course you heard that story. The next day we wake up and we go to Inc. magazine. Damon John's on Inc. magazine, and he has a celebration for that. I speak at that. I'm his guest of honor. And then the next day we go to Shark Tank. Shark Tank experience was amazing. It's at Sony Studios, and you go there and there's no audience. I'm a guest, and there's like the entrepreneurs that are going to pitch. And basically, there's a lot of catering. Oh man, amazing catering, and hospitality is awesome. So I think we watched about 9 pitches. So sometimes they could take a half hour to 45 minutes. You don't know. I mean, but there's no scripts. There's no like setups and stuff. It's just raw footage that just goes to the editing floor, which is awesome. So to learn, I've said this before. I would not have wanted to been the person to open that door and face those sharks. That's intimidating, man. That door pops open and it's like do 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 do, and you got to be ready. You got to be focused. You got to know your numbers. You got to know your evaluation. You got to be clear. You got to be able to be ready to answer questions, whatever the questions are. Like, what made you start this, or what inspired you to start this? What's your sales? What were your sales in like 3 years ago? What are they? What are they now? Why are they lower than what they are? Why are you coming to get an investor? What do you need a shark for? And then you have to know. And so those are the things that you learn. And then yeah, man, some of the entrepreneurs that were there pitching, they were nervous. I would say that because I was talking to them before, they would go up and stuff. But that experience was amazing. Talking to all of them, watching how the operation is, just knowing what they're looking for. Also, if someone was going to go on there, understand what each shark wants to invest in. Like what like you got QVC, gimmicks and gadgets. You got technology and security. You've got sports. You've got health and wellness. You've got clothing, apparel, technology. Like wine, ice cream. What is it? Like what is it that they study them? That's what I would say. Study them. Understand what they're looking for. Do they invest in the person? Are they looking for, like, they want to invest in the person? They may not like your product business right now, but they love you, and they know that working with you, you're going to be able to take care of and enhance other things that you have. You want to work with them. You're going to be a good partner to work with. Be honest. Don't go on there and go and try to hide things, because they're going to get you. They are going to expose you. That's the thing. You are going to get, your honesty, don't try to lie, because it's going to happen. Everything that is going to be public is going to be public now. So be truthful. If you've got other investors that are invested in the business, then let them know, let them know like about how much money you personally invested in it. Or was it family and friends that they call it? Or is it angel investors, or all the different things? I would, so honesty, then be clear. Like make sure that they're not confused. Like when you're sitting there talking about it, don't confuse them, because once they get confused, then they could be out because you're not clear. And don't go there and go, well, this product right here, but guess what? I got another one. This is part A of this branch. Before you know it, they're trying to sell. They're trying to tell you that they're trying to do 3 different things, and they're like, okay, so if I invest, do I get all 3? No, we're only going to focus on this one. And you're like, okay, you're all over the place. I'm not really understanding what your business is, or maybe it's not the right time. You're still in the starting stages. Lots of different things. Those are all the things that you learn.
And then how did it personally affect or benefit you being out there for Shark Tank?
It made me be a better entrepreneur. It made me go. It made me pay attention to things. It made me pay attention to margins. Trying to like, don't make something and only like you're like 5% or 10%. A profit. Like, what I'm saying? Like, it makes you think about how it's manufactured, how it's shipped, how things are going to go into big box stores. You know what I mean? And how competitive retail, that certain products in the big box stores is. The shelf space, and they're experts at this stuff. The other thing is that you learn is that they're learning too still. Even though that they're in the position that they're at, they're always learning and growing from people. And a lot of them try to find people that have expertise that they don't know as much. So it's like, hey, hey, I'm gonna have you on the team because you know more about this than me. But so and it just depends on the different personalities. So I've taken that, I've have I implemented everything that I learned? Not yet. Not yet. Are there things I still want to? Of course. Once I do, but it made me better. Like it made me a better entrepreneur, maybe a better person to just to just that everything's possible. To be able to just focus, focus on one thing, and be the expert at that too. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I struggle with focusing on one thing. I actually have a good friend named Alex Sanfilippo, who's his at least once a week. At least once a week, he will say, "Max, don't let yourself get distracted. Focus on what you're already doing. Don't take on new stuff." And then every once in a while, he'll go, "But hey, I got this great idea for you." So I have a real problem with shiny object syndrome when it comes to effort, not when it comes to cash or credit. So I'm not one of these people who's chasing the next get rich thing with my piggy bank, but it's like stuff that just interests me or that I'm curious about. I'll try it. So we're getting close, if not over the amount of time I usually schedule for this. So I'm going to ask you the question I hate being asked. You've become a speaker and an advocate. You have a clothing brand and a business that creates designs for people who put on clothing and banners and stuff. What is Eric going to do next? And what are some of your future plans and goals?
yes, I'm glad that you asked that because I just was able to I just got my van December 2019. And that campaign was called We Drive to Inspire. It took 30 months to fundraise, and we fundraised with dinners and a golf outing and online crowdfunding from Facebook and GoFundMe. Once that goal was achieved, and also Damon John's team got on board in August or September 2018, and I was able to work with George and Sherry. Like it was awesome. George and I were just knocking it out with it was fun. I had a fun time. It was a lot of challenge, but we got there 30 months later, December 20th, 2019 on Inspire Friday. An amazing Inspire Friday. And there's a video what that moment felt like to get my new wheelchair van. So the
Wow.
next project, a house. We live, and of course with me, I like to do campaigns because I learned that stuff when I was being an ambassador for Damon John's books. That's how I learned how to run campaigns. Like I knew how to fundraise, but actually develop it structure wise with a campaign. So this one is a house, and it's called We Live to Inspire. So so that's one of the biggest goals right now is to start. Well, I've already started fundraising, so to find a house or build a house, whatever that may be. I'm still looking. I know the area. I've been looking at land, whatever comes with it. But if I got to go out and talk to sponsors and builders and whatever it is, I'm coming up with the ideas. I'm still working on it. Like I have an idea, like how can I get furniture? I can go to a furniture company and I can get that to sponsor because I have traffic in my house too, because I have caregivers. Plus I can go on the internet, then I can speak online. I can use my platform and sponsor and promote these companies that help. I got social media. I've got podcasting, so I'm just trying to figure all that out. But that's the goal is to get a new house that's accessible and fits my needs, where I don't have to like try and go down a slim hallway, or when I can go to the bathroom, that it's wheelchair accessible, be able to take like a shower, because I do bed baths now, because the bathroom's not accessible here. It's just not. But it was what I needed. It fit my needs somewhat, but it was enough to be able to live where I am now, comfortably. But you always it's a start. The other thing is building the Inspire brand. As you keep hearing everybody, all these entrepreneurs right now, Q4, Q4. It's happening. Cyber Monday, Black Friday. Christmas, Hanukkah, you start seeing all this stuff that's going to be happening soon. So how are you going to finish out for the rest of the year? So gearing up, that would be business goal. Gearing up for the end of this year. Um, and of course, uh, what other man? Is there other goals? Yeah. Actually, the one you said earlier. I just celebrated 23 years life after injury, and I always try and do something positive. So I thought, what better way to celebrate this year to be on 23 different shows by the end of the year. So that's the goal. That was a goal that I put out right before September 20th, and this is show number 11 right now. This is show number 11. 7 of them have been aired, so we're still waiting for more to be aired. But this is show number 11. It depends when it airs, so I go by when the show airs. So yours might not be. This is the 11th one recorded.
Right.
And so that's the goal. By the end of the year, being on 23 different shows. Like I said, always growing the Inspire brand.
Well, let's see. This is the first full week of October, so you have roughly 11 weeks left. I have no doubt that you'll do 23 shows, and I'm sure that once this goes live, some of the people who see it will reach out to you. And um, I usually just, I usually can't help myself and make a few introductions too. So I have no doubt it will happen. I don't usually count them the way you do because I've been doing this long enough that I realize that, there's one date. There's one date to book, where you pitch and they say, yeah, we'll have you on your show. And then there's another date another email or two where you schedule and then you record and then they get released. And sometimes they'll get released 2 or 3 months down the road. But I understand,
right.
Why you're counting it that way. That's cool. But I think you're going to get there either way. You're halfway there now,
Right. I'm going to say this right now, Max. You heard it on your show. And what's your excuse? I'm going to, if not reach the goal by the end of October, and that means that they're recorded, not aired, or I'm going to be very close. I'm going to be within 4 or 5 from that goal. That's what I'm predicting here. I'm predicting goal achievement prediction.
Right. Well, I don't doubt you're going to do it. I teach people how to become podcast guests. I do the booking for some people. And the one thing I always tell my clients honestly is what I do is it's not genius. It doesn't take real skill or brain power to pitch people for podcasts, but it does take regular, consistent effort. And most people either don't have the confidence in themselves or their story, or they don't have the time and energy to do it. But I think that if somebody wanted to, they could do 23 shows in a week. Now, I would not want to do that because that would be on a podcast every freaking hour of the day.
Yeah.
But I have no doubt that that somebody is probably going to try it. I recently ran into a cat who wanted to do 50 shows in 30 days, and I told him, I said, that's possible, but you're going about it the wrong way. I said, you need to settle on like the month of December and spend the months of September, October, and November scheduling those 50 interviews. But yeah, you're going to do it. Me and the What's Your Excuse community, our fellow solutions finders, we're going to help you. You're going to make this.
Awesome.
So, yeah. So why don't you remind people of where they can find you online and social media, and maybe leave us with a parting thought or encouragement or challenge, or whatever you want to say to my audience. Just one last thought after you drop the links on us again.
Okay. Also, don't forget to go to Google and type in beat my belly like a bongo, and you'll hear one of my songs, because it's the only one that's gonna pop up. There's Max likes music. He's always singing. I like hip hop music. Actually, I sing too, karaoke, but it's not good as Max. So it's not as good. So
I appreciate that, but I'm sure you're a better performer, and in your brand of music, I'm sure you're amazing. I I would imagine if I listened to you, I'd probably have trouble singing for a few hours.
Hey, all you got to do is just follow along, man. I can teach you. And that's because I
Uh,
was able to do hip hop music again because of the D-Man Foundation, because they have the first barrier-free music therapy recording studio, and that was how
that's in
everything.
Michigan, right?
That
That's
is in Michigan. That is correct. And it was awesome. I was on stage 17 years later after the injury, performing live on stage 17 years later. Never give up your dream.
that's all we need, guys. We're done. Never give up your dream. And if you don't have a dream, you need to go get one. Okay, we had another great conversation today with Eric Patrick Thomas of Inspire Science. Oh, crud. It's, I'm going to have to look that up. Man, I'm getting old or older. Um, okay. I loved how he talked about getting past the word can't to the word how. InspireScience.com. Okay, thank you. I also loved how he's been through so much. He's overcome a lot. He's but very positive. I didn't find out until after we finished recording that he's actually been dealing with a bit of an infection and had been on bed rest for a few weeks. But he just really wanted to be part of my podcast today and have this be part of his 23 shows in the next few weeks before the end of the year, this 23rd anniversary of his injury. So I really appreciate that. Being blind, I had no way to see on the screen. I hadn't talked to him to find this out about him before the show started, but I think that's just a reminder of who he is. He is going to do things. He's going to follow his dream. Right now, his dream is a house. Continuing his career as an artist, as a producer, as a designer of graphics and a business owner, entrepreneur, and also just wanting to do podcasts, wanting to share his story. And I'm so blessed that he decided to share it with me and my show and with y'all. Just incredible interview, and I look forward to talking to him again in person someday, or again over the internet if someday becomes too far down the road for me to tolerate, because you know how I am. I believe that we should do things now as opposed to next week, next month, next year, or someday. So I loved how he talked about becoming an advocate, and that really a lot of this is just creative problem solving that came from being an entrepreneur and from dealing with his own disability and finding his own way to overcome the barriers that he runs into. And I didn't ask him this, I wish I had, but I get the feeling that he doesn't always think about what he's doing when he's doing it. He just does it. He just finds a way to get to the airport, get to the studio, record in the studio. And I'm really inspired by him. Hearing some of his big, audacious goals makes me, feel like maybe I should be reconsidering my own goals. And it's just amazing when I have people on my show who, quite frankly, I look at what they've done and what they've been through, and I think, man, Max, you've had it easy. Yeah, you've had to overcome vision loss and the loss of the family carnival, and had to figure out how to be an online person. But this guy has really accomplished some stuff. Paralyzed from the neck down, in rehab for over a year, having to manage his own care. Of course, he sees it as getting to manage his own care. He's the CEO of his own care, which I think is amazing. So I hope that you've enjoyed the interview, that you will check him out at inspirescience.com. We will get his YouTube link for you because those videos sound amazing. Some of them probably sound cringeworthy, but a lot of them sound like they will definitely inspire you and me as well. Do hope that you will visit my sponsorship, Edwards, at createmyvoice.com, because he is the expert on Alexa and Google, the wireless speaker platforms, the wearables, the smartphone apps for both Alexa and Google on Android and Apple products. And if you don't protect your brand, if you don't protect your brand by claiming your invocation name, somebody else can claim it, and then you end up having to pick a name that isn't exactly what you want, and somebody else gets to control what content people who are looking for you will find. So definitely talk to Chip, reach out to him through the contact form and schedule a talk. He can explain to you more why it's important, talk to you about the process. It's a really easy process, in my opinion. He was able to get me through it, so I'm sure he can get just about anybody else through it. And really, do you want those millions of people not being able to listen to your podcast or visit your website and read your content? I know I can't live without those audiences. I mean, I don't have enough followers, viewers, listeners that I can write a whole bunch of millions of them off. So go check him out. And on my website at theblindblogger.net, you can also get there by going to whatsyourexcuseshow.com. You can check out my new 8 weeks to podcast guest rockstar, where I will teach you how to be an awesome guest on podcasts and radio shows so you can share your story, reach new audiences, and grow your brand. It is an interactive, hands-on course, so I will not only help you with the technical aspect of it, but also the emotional side, mentor you through the whole process, have you on my podcast, What's Your Excuse, book you on on 4 other shows, mentor you through the process. By the time I'm through, you will not only be technically ready, but you will be mentally and emotionally ready to go out there and share your story and promote the heck out of your business or out of your passion. So theblindblogger.net/8 weeks, the number 8 weeks. If you have any questions for me, or if you just want to say hi, be sure and reach out through the contact form. I really couldn't do this without you. I appreciate you. I love you. And I look forward to talking to many more of you in the future. So until next time, thank you and take care out there. This is The Blind Blogger, and this has been What's Your Excuse? Too many times we stand aside and let the water slip away. To what we put off to tomorrow has finally come today. So don't stand upon the shoreline and say you're satisfied. Choose to chance the rapids and dare to dance the tide.